to move that leave be given to bring in a bill to amend the law relating to abortion in England and Wales and Northern Ireland, to remove criminal liability in respect of abortion performed with the consent of the pregnant woman up to the 24th week of pregnancy, to repeal sections 59 and 60 of the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861, to create offences of termination of a pregnancy after its 24th week and non-consensual termination of a pregnancy, to amend the law relating to conscientious objection to participation in abortion treatment and for connected purposes. I want to start by thanking Gordon Nadell QC and Professor Sally Sheldon for drafting this bill. The bill is supported by the British Medical Association, the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynaecologists, the Royal College of Midwives, the Faculty of Sexual and Reproductive Health, Amnesty International, the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, the Family Planning Association, Mary Stopes International, the End Violence Against Women Coalition, Women's Aid and the TUC. Abortion in our country is underpinned by the oldest legal framework for any healthcare treatment, with the harshest criminal sentences in the developed world for women having an illegal abortion. Poland, the USA, Canada and parts of Australia do not criminalise women. In my view, the law needs updating to deal with the advances in women's healthcare, in sex and relationship education and the role of the internet, all alongside the changing attitudes in our society. Our current abortion law dates back to the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861, a time when Queen Victoria was on the throne and women were still decades away from getting the right to vote. And under the 1861 Act, any woman procuring her own miscarriage and anyone assisting her can go to prison for life. Of course, in 1967, Parliament voted for the Abortion Act. This gave a route for women in England and Wales to access abortion legally by setting out specific exemptions and conditions. These included the need for signatures from 2 doctors, agreeing, for example, that a termination is necessary to prevent permanent injury to the physical or mental health of the pregnant woman. Women's lives have been saved in their thousands by David Steele's 1967 Act. Yeah. Women no longer had to seek unsafe, unregulated backstreet abortionists. So what are the facts about abortion today? Well, 1 in 3 women will have an abortion in their lifetime. These days, 80% of abortions take place in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy and are medically induced by taking tablets, not by surgical procedures. And the requirement for the 2 doctors is the only medical procedure requiring this. And in 2007, the Science and Technology Select Committee found that there was no evidence that this requirement serves to safeguard women or doctors. Moreover, the 1967 Act has never applied to Northern Ireland, and the chilling effect of the 1861 Act means that abortion hardly ever takes place in Northern Ireland. It's one of the harshest abortion regimes in the world, with no abortion available in cases of rape, incest or fatal fetal abnormality. And this is what a woman from Northern Ireland says. I spent Christmas Day in casualty with my 2 children. My husband had beaten me to a pulp. He had repeatedly raped me. 6 weeks later, I discovered I was pregnant. I could not continue with the pregnancy, knowing my husband would carry out his threats to kill me if he found out. I went to my GP, who told me abortion was illegal in Northern Ireland and refused to help. Or Denise's story, who was told midway through her pregnancy that her baby had Edwards syndrome and wouldn't survive. Very ill and unable to travel, Denise was forced to continue with her pregnancy because she lived in Northern Ireland. She was repeatedly asked about her baby, and this, she says, left her feeling tortured. She says every minute, every second of the day, you have to live with the knowledge that the child inside you is going to die. Or imagine being Emma, aged 18, who found out at 20 weeks that her baby had anencephaly and wouldn't survive. She couldn't face travelling to England for an abortion because she wanted to be surrounded by her loving family. She had to continue the pregnancy to term because she lived in Northern Ireland and was eventually induced to give birth to her stillborn daughter. Then there was the mother who found out that her 15-year-old daughter was pregnant. and that her abusive partner had threatened to kick the baby out and stab it if it is born. Feeling that she had no other option, she bought her daughter abortion tablets online. Seeking support for her daughter from their family doctor concerning the abusive relationship, not the abortion, she now faces a potential prison sentence for trying to help her daughter access medical care denied to her by their government. Then there's the heartbreaking account this week on Twitter from a Northern Ireland woman who's been live tweeting at Rather Be Home. Her experience of having to travel to England for an abortion. She said this: "I should be at home, in the privacy of my own home. Instead, I'm trying to discreetly bleed in a shitty hotel. There's no dignity, there's no privacy." These are real-life examples of what women in Northern Ireland today face under the current abortion law. And consider for a moment the morality of laws that mean women in Northern Ireland seeking abortion after being impregnated through a sexual crime, rape or incest, could face a heavier criminal penalty than the perpetrators, the real criminals. So this June, the Supreme Court found that Northern Ireland's current abortion laws breach women's human rights in Northern Ireland. And in February 2018, the United Nations found that thousands of women and girls in Northern Ireland are subject to grave and systematic violations of their rights, being compelled to either travel outside Northern Ireland for a legal abortion or to carry their pregnancy to term. So with the Northern Ireland Assembly not sitting since January 2017, UK politicians can no longer look away while vulnerable women in Northern Ireland, often suffering in desperate circumstances, have their human rights breached. As Hillary Clinton said, human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights. And let there be no hard borders in the Irish Sea over human rights. And polling research released on the 10th of October 2018 by Amnesty International shows that 65% of people in Northern Ireland believe that having an abortion should not be a crime, and 66% supported the view that in the absence of devolved government, Westminster should legislate to reform the law. And if Westminster does decriminalise abortion in Northern Ireland, it will then be for the Northern Irish Assembly to decide what abortion provision should look like there. But meanwhile, even in England and Wales, a woman using abortion tablets bought online is committing a criminal offence punishable by life imprisonment. And it's often the most vulnerable women finding it difficult to access termination services who turn to the internet. Women on Web, a doctor-led online medical service, say that 16% of women cite domestic or honour violence and 8% intimate partner violence as reasons to seek tablets online. So, whether it's in Birmingham, Belfast or Bangor, women need a modern, supportive, humane, properly regulated medical regime that encourages them to come forward for the best professional advice and treatment, not drive them isolated and scared into the unregulated internet pills market. Therefore, my bill ensures that up to 24 weeks fetal gestation, women and clinicians would no longer be subject to the criminal law for consensual abortion. The 24-week time limit remains, and decriminalisation does not mean the deregulation of abortion. Safeguards stay in place. My aim is for effective regulation fit for purpose in the 21st century. The existing body of law and professional standards governing medical procedures would stay. It would remain a crime to offer abortion services without being properly registered to do so, while anyone supplying medication without a legal prescription would breach the Human Medicines Regulations 2012. Clinics would continue to be registered and subject to CQC oversight. And very importantly, my bill would also strengthen protection for women and targets the criminal law on the real criminals. Anyone, an abusive partner, for example, who ends a pregnancy against a woman's wishes through violence or by administering abortion pills without the woman's knowledge, would be subject to a life sentence. My bill also protects doctors and nurses who conscientiously object to abortion, extending this as a statutory right to Northern Ireland. So, in conclusion, it's time to remove a Victorian misogynistic stigma from our abortion laws. My aim is simple: women able to choose what happens to their own bodies, confident, not criminalised, supported, not stigmatised, women able to access professional advice and medical care that is regulated effectively, and an Act of Parliament that is fit for now, Not for 51 years ago, and certainly not for 157 years ago.
Thank you.